I'm a BIM specialist, work with computational design as part of my work. And also I'm into academics and I have noticed that BIM is something that is lacking in our country right now, which requires a lot of attention. And moving forward, our company, Cosmic Star Technologies, we are looking at developing our workflow with respect to many of the companies around, many of the firms around that are still into 2D drafting or 2D softwares. So we support the growth and also training, and we provide also the solutions to all the requirement of CAD and BIM. Moving forward, right now we are not looking at any software telling that this is a bad software or this is a good software. We are doing a comparative study where which tool rightly fit for the user. So the agenda goes into this. Now, talking further from previous session, if you have noticed, we came from a stage where we were completely into 2D drafting or 2D based software, from which we shifted to a 3D tool. Now, from 3D also in the second session, we had certain 3D tools such as SketchUp or Rhino or such kind of modeling tools. We shifted towards BIM software where we had more power to it. Now in market right now, we have some software that are specifically made for BIM purpose. But then if you look at them, like Archicad came in 1984, Revit came in 1997, Allplan is 2001. There is also Tekla Structures or Vectorworks. On all these software, if you look at the purpose why it was built and why it is developing has its own differences. For example, Archicad was specifically made for architectural purposes or for architects by architects. When it comes to Revit, it had a focus mainly on the structure aspect of it, where you could do MEP and also structural things within the modeling. And similar way, Tekla Structures is completely built for structural aspect. Now, talking about that, all these tools can be used for the same purpose of architectural structure and MEP. It's just that the user group is what it is mainly looking at. Now, comparing between Archicad and Revit, there are some similarities, of course, because both are BIM software. So in terms of looking at advanced BIM authoring software, both the tools provide options like building walls, slab, curtain walls, doors, windows, columns, stairs, and all these are parametric in the sense the change that you do into the certain data, it is going to be updating in your 3D or 2D or any type of documentation that you're looking at. So both are similar in terms of the availability of the tool or ability to model, but the differences would be something that we'll be looking right after this. In the same manner, there is automated 2D and 3D that most of you have already familiar with if you are looked into any of these two softwares, where you create a 3D model, you are getting the 2D, or doing the 2D, you are getting the 3D documentation. So it's parallel and both works with the same logic in both the softwares as well. When it comes to industry standard, many of the countries work with Archicad and Revit depending on the region and the availability. And these softwares right now are the standard software that if you say that it is a BIM software. Now, talking about interoperability and integration, both the software allow many other software or stakeholders to communicate with the software in terms of file transfer, in terms of data sharing, in terms of creating the model, and also working on same project. Now, both the softwares have a lot of opportunities and options provided by both the Graphisoft and Autodesk with these tools. Now, the main part that we have to look at when we select a tool is that the differences between them. Now we have two options here. One is Archicad and Revit. First thing we will be looking at the difference is that the developer. So one is by Graphisoft, that is our Archicad. Then there is Revit, which is by Autodesk. Now both the tools are actually developed by two people and two different locations. Even the purpose also would have been different. And if you know, there are some softwares that are provided by Graphisoft and also by Autodesk. So we will know how it functions and how it talks to one another. In the same way, if you look at another aspect of the comparison, Archicad is mainly famous for its user-friendly interface because it is designed by architects. When it comes to Revit, the Revit has a strict way of following, and then you have certain method that you have to follow if you are doing a modeling within Revit. But it has a composed interface in terms of the technicality. Now, for an architectural perspective, you might look for something that is very intuitive in terms of an architect's perspective. Moving forward, Archicad allows you to work on both axonometry and perspective. But when it comes to Revit, the main workflow is within an axonometric display when we look at the 3D part of it. You could still achieve perspective, but it is through camera and it is a longer process to achieve. That is something that many people chose SketchUp over many of the software is the ability to move around the model, move inside the model, because perspective view allows you to do that. So Archicad also does the same way. So it makes it much easier comparing to many other software around. When you're talking about the file type, Archicad usually goes on a smaller file size, but Revit goes to a larger file size. Even though they contain the same level of information, the way it has been scripted is in a way that Archicad allows you to work with a smaller file with a larger detail within that. And talking about 2D and 3D, usually when we work with Archicad or for any type of project, we do work completely within Archicad itself, including our concept stage 2D and also then transferring to 3D or the MEP model. But when it comes to softwares such as Revit, you have a strict way of working and you may have to use a software such as AutoCAD or ZWCAD or any CAD software or DWG based software to do the dedicated 2D. Again, moving forward, like I mentioned, Archicad is designed by architects. So the perspective that is being put behind developing the software is an architect's perspective itself. Archicad also support on both Mac and Windows. It was developed first on Mac itself, so it has a greater support on Mac systems. Revit right now works on Windows. If it has to be worked on Mac, you will have to use virtual machine to use it. In the same way, there is one more important part when it comes to the selection of this particular tool, that is creating objects. So Revit uses a concept called families. So these families will have parametric properties and you do it in a different interface in Revit. But when it comes to Archicad, it has a different type of methods that you can follow. One of them is GDL coding. That is where you can create a complete parametric model using a coding language. Then there is something called Paramo. Paramo is more or like a grasshopper script. So in that way, you will be able to create a parametric object. So object in the sense, it will be a furniture or any type of element that you need to bring in. So that is something that is very different between these two. And even creating a basic furniture or basic object with morph tool or any other tool that is there in Archicad, that is another way. So Archicad provides a various option of using these particular objects. And on the top of that, the built-in template that Archicad provides also comes with a lot of parametric object, and you don't have to make anything in terms of your primary stages of your project. Later in the stage, if you want to customize something, you can completely do it within Archicad. Now, the final thing that I want to show in terms of comparison is the subscription or annual, the licensing part of it. So Archicad has both subscription and perpetual, and Revit works on completely on the subscription part of it. So that is also something people usually consider when they look for a proper solution that they wanted for their purpose. Now moving forward, one of the things that Archicad has is curtain wall tool, which also will be having in Revit. But here we will try to look into the tool itself and see how easy it is to use the curtain wall tool and how efficient it creates the modeling in terms of view, also in terms of workflow as well. In the next step, we will be looking at some of the MEP modeling aspect where we will be focusing mainly on the pipe work. And also in step 3, we are looking little bit towards the structural part where we will also exploring the partial structure display and also some of the load application that you can do within that. Step 4 will have two parts. So one of them will be model view option, another one will be graphic override. Both kind of go hand in hand, but model view option mainly used for your level of detail that you can do it within the project, where graphic override is more towards quality assurance or checks with it that can be done visually. In terms of architect's perspective, you can do it completely visually rather than doing it in terms of numbers or text. So let's move towards Archicad and let us see what we can achieve using Archicad for these aspects. So I hope most of you who were part of this session had seen this building. So we were developing this building from day one by adding or doing certain kind of modeling. And these are the floor plans and details that we achieved so far. Now, in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the front wall, the wall below the beam, using curtain wall tools. So what we can do is we can just lift the wall up by changing the base to probably the first floor. So it is going to remain to that specific level. And now we will build a curtain wall. We'll also remove the door and we will start fresh from here. So the curtain wall tool in Archicad is a separate tool comparing to Revit. So Revit works in one single wall component. You have both the normal wall or stacked walls, and then you also work with the curtain walls. Here we have a separate tool altogether for curtain wall. Let's see the settings. So there are some options, like you can see there are some categories or hierarchy that it comes with. First one is the major settings, or for you can say the global settings, where you could fit the heights and then what offset you want to build it. I'm going for like 3.5-inch offset from the home story, considering the floor is going to be of that much, that thickness, the floor finish. Again, there are some additional options that you can work with, telling that the drafting line, which one you want to refer, and what kind of framing you want to focus on. And most important part here is the scheme. So how scheme work in Archicad is that there could be a pattern which can be repeated. So that is what a scheme is. You can create any type of scheme. So right now I'm using a scheme where there is a 2.5 inches width, and there is also 6 inches and 8.5 inches height as a pattern that I'm creating. Now this pattern could also be like a checkered pattern, could also be like a honeycomb pattern. So random pattern. You could create a pattern that you want to repeat it. Archicad has that level of detail that you can give. But when it comes to softwares like Revit, it has a strict way of following, and then that creates a little bit of difficulty in terms of final achievement. So here it is easier, if I say, when you create these elements. Also, I'll make sure the pattern is starting from the center. So that is something that you can customize here if you need any offset or something. Uh, Again, there are multiple options in terms of achieving each element in a curtain wall. So the first element is going to be the frames. Again, frame is categorized into like corner frames, boundary frames, mullion frames, and transom. So these elements, when you click on any of them, it will give you the preview of what element you are looking at, and also what is the member size or dimensions or the profile that you are following here. Here I'm taking the boundary frame, and I'm just going for a smaller size, like probably 5 inches, and width I will take it like 3 inches, and this I can probably put 4 inches. And you can see the preview of the member, the profile is getting changed on the basis of the number, the dimension I'm changing. I can also look for different other profiles which are already built into this, or we could completely customize it and create. But this is a I mean usually used profile that we have it in this. Now both the mullions also I will follow the same way. I'll just go for a smaller size by making it 4 inches and 3 inches here. I'll also control the this as well as 2 inches. So you can see the moment I change something, it will give you the preview and you will be able to identify if there is any issues in the model. I can also work on the transom and do the same dimensions here. So that will be 4 inches. This would be 3 inches. And this also I could make 4 inches or 4, I mean, depending on what dimension and how it has to join with the rest of the elements. So here we do the setup, we move to the panel. So we first did the scheme, then we came to the frames, then we are going to the panel. So right now this panel, if I need it to be glass, I could customize between the main panel, distinct panel, and then I can change. So right now this is the main panel and it is using glass. I could also override the material here and also customize a lot of material profiles within this. We're not going to the junction and accessories. That is something that we can probably see later. So we will give those properties the same as it is, and we will look at the ground floor and we will draft. Now, when I draft, you can see the preview how the element is going to be once I do the model. And once I click here, you get the same profile, same panels, and the details. If I need to have some kind of movement or some kind of values to be added, either manually you can do it within Archicad here, or you can adjust the sizes altogether in the main settings. So I just created a curtain wall with, you can see the center as the member starting, which I have given it in this. And if I get to 3D, you can see the curtain wall has been added. You could achieve any panel here. That is one of the greater advantage when it comes to working with Archicad. Now, if I wanted to edit and customize it, globally, if I change, the whole element is going to be affected. But individually means I could just go to the edit mode, which will give you more control. Like if you don't want to see the environment, I can hide them. I can also hide the accessories or junctions or panels. So all these options are within Archicad for you to work around. So I'll just delete this element and convert this particular slab just by going to the settings and change it to a sliding door. So there are some options here. I'm going for a sliding door, and now you can see just by changing that element has become a simple double door. I mean, it's not taking any time for me to do any customization. It's all in your hand right away in the interface. Again, I'm going to the door settings. So within the door setting, there are some options I can work with. I can also customize the panel size and visualize in 3D how it is changing. So if I give it only like a 1 inch thick, it is going to show how it is going to be. So you could explore some of the things looking into these elements. And yeah, this is what we have. So I added a door as well. One great advantage is that these elements usually comes with certain parametric properties. So here opening is one of the property that it has. So I could show in terms of representation that the door could be open within this. So curtain wall in this manner can go to great extent to create any type of thing, not just vertically. You can also have a horizontal element as well. So if I walk in probably in the upper floor, if I want it like a ceiling pattern, if something that is what I'm looking at, then in that case I could construct a curtain wall with a specific panel, and I can avoid all the members and then create something interesting as well. So there are so many options that uh, this curtain wall lets you do. Not just this rectangular profile, you can also build it completely to this particular profile as well. So curtain wall gives you a complete control, thinking that you are an architect, you should have the freedom of modeling, and the tool is in your hand to create. Now moving forward, we will look at MEP part of it, for which what I would showcase is, okay, we are going to do it for this particular toilet, and we are going to take a put a WC and then take a pipe outside to this particular area. One of the method that we have is we could access these MEP tools under the design tools. So there is MEP engineering tools. If you look at, there is ductwork, pipe work, and cabling work. We are looking at pipe work and specifically the pipe route. I have customized my interface in a way where I have it here under MEP, all the tools that is required. So first thing is I need to put a WC. So I could use an equipment tool itself to add that. And you can see there are some WCs. If I want to look at tap or your sink, I have all the things already. So I'm going for WC. I will take this one right now, and then I can specify whether the element that I'm looking at. So this is a 3D preview to be floor mounted or wall mounted. So I can change those details. Also, the effluent, right now it is in the back. If I want it on the floor, I can just change this, and that property is going to be updated in the 3D. You can also work on the systems and all these details within here. And moving forward, all the MEP elements will have a section separately for connections. So right now there is a water connection where it is using 1.5 inch pipe. If I want for a wastewater connection, that is going to be right now 4.5 inch. So if I wanted to change that, I can directly change it here and then continue the modeling later. So I will keep the settings how it is, and then I will place it to the center of this, and I could also just move it in a bit and place it. So it's up to us how we want to do the modeling and what are the technicalities that is required. And what pipe you are seeing is, this one is the inlet pipe that you will be able to work on. Let's see in 3D, but I wanted to just focus on this. So one of the tool Archicad has that is really powerful, that is a marquee tool. So if I just take a typical section like this, and then if I just put F5, that is showing 3D, it is going to give me a cut section throughout the model, which could be used even for presentation as well. So we have this. You can visualize it much better. Let's say this particular slab, I don't want to hide it. I want it like in terms of layered or wireframe mode. So you could go for the layer settings, which is already there in Archicad. You can assign the elements to each some of the layers. You can also create layers and layer combination. I'm going to change the slab to be wireframe. Just by clicking once, it is going to change all the slab to be in a wireframe mode. Now you can see this pipe which is coming out. I could just stretch it as well and build it till right below the beam that we have. If I want, I can get back to our main element and then keep the wall as wireframe and slab, I can change it back. Now you'll see all the walls to be in the wireframe mode. So yeah, so you could do a lot of change here as well. So this is the pipe that is getting the water into this. I could also extend that outside and do. So there are so many options that it lets you work with in the initial part of it. Now moving towards the pipe work. So when we work with MEP, there are certain systems that we have to build. So these systems are, let me just open the MEP systems. So you can see there is a system for black water, cabling, cold water supply, cooling, exhaust air. All these things that you're seeing right now are different MEP systems. So if you notice black water, I have already created a system here. You can just click new and just set the property. You can assign it to any specific thing. So if you wanted to use that system for duct work, you can activate it here, or pipe work. So I'm giving it for pipe work. And if you also notice, there is an option to customize the fill. This is mainly for how do you want it to be visualizing in your drawings, and customize the line type and also what color you want to use it. And when it comes to 3D, you can custom create a specific texture to showcase all the pipes to be in that color. Not necessary, but it would be good for identifying them or separating them in your model. So once the settings are done, what I will be doing is I'll take the tool. So that is the pipe root tool that I'm using. I can go to the setting, assign them to the right layer. So I'm going to keep it to plumbing, considering that is what I want. And the system right now is using cold water supply. I could change that to black water, and I can go to the segment. And right now we are going for a 4-inch pipe for the exit. So, I mean, you can customize it completely here. If I go to pipe settings, I could remove the insulation on the pipe. I can also work on some of the other properties. So this is something that you can explore in terms of nodes, where the creation of junctions. So right now I'm working on this pipe bend. I could remove the insulation and work on the dimensions and all these aspects. So you have a lot of parametric property built into this. So once these properties are set, what we do is we just give OK, and we start the pipe work. Just like how we do a normal typical drafting, we are going to do the same thing in 3D. So the moment I come close to this pipe, it is going to snap, and now I can do the model. So I'm just making a pipe straight down, and let's say I am going to go in this direction, and I'll click the same point again. You will be able to see I created this pipe work. In the same way, if I wanted to do it from here, what I would be doing is, again, going to the pipe work. I can change the main settings. Instead of what I could just take cold water supply and then customize the pipe dimension here. You can also change the dimension separately, which I will be showing it to you right after this. So I'm just going for 2-inch, and let's see. So you can see right now the pipe is coming here, and I need to go up. So I could just snap in 3D as well, or preferably you could work on 2D also. So I'll just move straight up, and I'll stop it here. You can see this one, because we are using cold water supply, specifically that color is been given, and for black water I have given this color. So that easy it is to create a 3D documentation here. So let me just visualize everything. And now we have this. The pipework that you're seeing is actually here behind the wall. If I come back to plan, I will be seeing what is made visible to that element. If I go to one floor below the foundation part, I'll be able to see this. Let me turn on the trace reference, but visualizing the floor above. So now you can see what is happening above as well. Now I could do adjustment by moving this around. Let's say I want to continue that pipe till here, I could do that. Or if it has to be like straight till here, and if I want to take a turn, I could just continue the construction by clicking in the pet palette to that, and it will give you even these junctions. If some other pipeline is coming from kitchen, for example, I could just start a pipe and then come close to this point. It will detect the pipe, considering this is where it is joining. I can just click on that, and it will give you even the junction of those things. If you want to change the pipe size, so while doing it, if I just change by just in the context from 4 inches, if I go to 6 inches here, and just to showcase, you can see the pipe and the junctions also updated according to that. So the work will be done by the system depending on what details that you are giving to it. There are also additional options like pipe accessory tools to work along with that. So if you want to add a check valve or butterfly valve, any type of valve we need, we could add it here. You can also import any other file types. For example, if you have a Revit MEP element, you can import it into this library and you can use it. So that is something that make the workflow really easier if you are working towards an MEP modeling part. So yeah, that's about the MEP part. I think MEP part is clear. If you have any doubt, you can ask in the chat. We will move to the next part, that will be the structure. So here, if you have noticed in the previous session, let me just get back the main model. We have given certain properties such as whether an element is load bearing or not. So for roofs, we have given, for wall, we have given as it is non-load bearing. For column, we gave it load bearing. So these properties are already given to the system. So once it is given, it is just a click away. So here under partial structure display, I could go through these options. So let me just go to without finish. You can see the layer that defines the finish layer is completely removed, and I'm seeing the main part of the structure. If I go to the next thing, that is core only the core part of the modeling model that I will be able to see. Next part, core of load bearing. This is specifically the structural aspect, where now within the same model, I can visualize all the elements that are load bearing within the project. And on the top of that, these are the core of these elements. So you'll be able to see all the beams, the slab, the roof structure that we added, also this slab and this column, the specific column that we designed. We will also be seeing the MEP because that is made part of this. If it is not required, you could hide as well. So you can do hide selection that will remove. So here I actually hid this element. So let me get back. Hide selection. Yeah. So this is just a structure display where you can have the primary conversation with your structural engineer directly from here by hiding all the unnecessary elements in this. But the next step would be visualizing it very close to how a structural engineer would approach. That is an option here called structural analytical model. Once it is active, it is going to showcase to you in terms of how a structural engineer would see. So you can see there is a red color and there is a green color. So these green nodes, I can also work on the appearance of that by just turning on and turning off. Whatever is green are connected properly, and whatever is red are either cantilevering or not connected. And you can see some of the properties that are already here. So this kind of visuals, we will get it even before we sending the drawing to some structural engineer. So from an architect's perspective, okay, this junction right now is not a proper junction. It needs to have attention. So this particular thing is telling me that, and it is cantilevering the beam that is going on in this place. So this information you are already getting in the model, so that before even you take a decision, you will be able to completely customize and make it a better model, then give it to the person to do the analysis. Again, there is one more step that you could do here. Archicad has this option of creating this load mapping where you could have different type of uses and you can assign it to this what you say, the zones. That is one. You can also create load cases. So right now there are some load cases here which can be used on applying it on the top of any model. Or we have a structural tool, just like I mentioned before, we have a structural engineering tools under design which can be taken into our interface as well. So for example, let's say this is the horizontal element. We usually apply it on a planar load. So we could take this structural surface load, then go to the setting, take the load case that you are looking at. So I could use a dead load here, and then I can work on the load value. So I'm not a structural engineer, so I'm not really familiar with most of the terms here, but I think this is clear enough to tell you that, okay, this would be the way it works. And once, if you are a structural engineer and if you are using these properties on this, these elements will carry these properties before you put it into the 3D software. So you can export this as a structural XLS file or even an IFC file to transfer the data. So I'll just give okay. Now it will detect the horizontal planar elements. So you can see right now, once I click, this load will be assigned to these horizontal elements. So that is what you are seeing right now. You could also work with some of the linear loads. So that also you have some load cases and you can apply whether you want it to be uniform or you want it to be a trapezoid type of load if it is changing. So for walls, usually we use this method and apply it on the top of this. Now you can see this particular load is applied to these junctions. So you could get done a lot within Archicad itself. It does not do analysis in the model. It will give you the analytical model that can be shared with the structural software and do the work. So that is mainly about the Archicad structural aspect. But continuing to that, when we use column tool or beam tool, not just a rectangular box or anything, you can also go for eye sections and details. So you have, there are structural profiles which are already built in. You can also create custom profile like how we did in the previous session for the cornices. You can create these custom profiles, any profile that you are specifically using in your country, and then you can import them as well into this. So not just our rectangular elements, but also any shapes can be added into this while doing structural details. So let me get to the whole model. We will move to the next stage, that would be the model view option. Now, let's say we have kind of done with the modeling part with X amount of work. Next thing is that before you publish your drawings to the site, usually what we do is we keep the level of detail increasing over the period of time. So that is what is this model view options about. So for example, let's say I'm in this particular drawing, architectural drawing, or a structural drawing, or something that we are looking at. There are levels of detail. Right now in this model, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to achieve as closest to what is reality. But when I do give it for construction, I do not need all these plastering layers when the stage is on about the civil part of it. So what we do is we have two options. One option is just going for this without finishes will give me directly here. This is how we achieve with these kind of things. But when it comes to other options, so for example, in this civil drawing, even though I can remove the structure, sorry, the finished part of it, I may not need the door to be visible in this drawing. I just need the opening to be seen. So in those cases, we use this model view option. So that is within the interface. So right now we have 4 views already created. We can also create completely new ones. So if I look at site, the columns in this model has some kind of a symbol. So in site view option, you don't have that symbol. When it comes to beam, you will only see probably the center line, the axis. You will not see the whole model of the beam. Slab, when it is two different slab, even though same surfaces, it will not join in this case. Again, moving to curtain wall. In site type, you will not be seeing completely detailed frames. We will be seeing just a line. And then when you're going to drafting, you can see the level of detail has increased 1 step or 2 steps. So like this, you can customize things such as our architectural element, structural element, elements such as stairs. You can work on how much level of detail you want to show it in for stairs in 3D and 2D. So this could be customized. Now, how it affects. Right now we are in a drawing. If you change the model view option to site, you can see all the civil openings have been removed and you're getting a drawing. So this is something that we do when we do with the CAD. So this kind of drawing will be generated and you put the door. Now, second stage. So you can also visualize the same effect on stair, where you will see only the lines and only the walk line on the top. So there is no other data on that. Next stage, let's say you want to give a little more detail to the site. You could go for drafting. In this, you are seeing an additional level of detail where the number of the stair numbering of the stair is right now present. Let's move to the next stage. That would be building plans, where you will even see the detail of the text like up and whatever content needs to be there. The detail of this also has increased. Same could be achieved in 3D as well. So if I'm just using site, you can keep an eye on the curtain wall that we just created. If you're using site, sorry, you can see only the panels, but not the frames, because in this option, that is not made activated. It is just the line that was made visible. Drafting, I'm seeing additional level of details. If I'm going for building, again, you can see even the detail on the door has been changed between the drafting. You can see this was just a closed door. Now it has become an open door, because in building plan, that option is being activated. Moving towards ceiling plan, again, there will be different level of detail. So you can achieve and custom create. Let's say phase 1, this is the level of detail I want. Phase 2, this is the level of detail I want. So model view option will let you work on completely the LOD part of the modeling and also documentation. So model view option mainly create this. Moving towards the next part of it, that is the graphic override. So graphic override is really important when it comes to quality assurance. So how we usually do is, for this project, we are going to consider this model right now, what I'm going to see. I want to check it visually, which all are the structural analytical model, but I want every other element to be still there. So the rule is that all the load bearing elements structural elements which are there in this model, I want it to be visible in red color. And whatever is not load bearing and not structural, I want it to be in a transparent way, like a glass. So this is what the rule visually I am going to check. So we have the model view option, sorry, we have the graphic override here. In this, we can create a new combination. So we are going to name it 001 structural display. Now, the next step is to create certain rules and place it here. So we can go to this manage rule option where you can see there are some rules already here. Like if I open the cut fill folder under which we have all cut fill are solid, all cut fills will be solid black, then all cut fills will be transparent. There are some option already provided for you. So what I'll be doing is I'll be creating completely new under a new section. Sorry, that is. Yeah, I'm going to give a new section that is going to name it as just str, under which I will start a new rule. So the rule is load bearing. Now I can use this rule and start customizing what is there in the content. So this was just the name of the rule. Now I'll create a criteria to select the element. So the criteria right now is all the 3D elements and all the elements that are load bearing. So element type is already in. So I'm going to just take 3D types, all the 3D. Next criteria for selection is structural function. So let me just type function. So I get structural function as a new property. Right now it is taking all the load bearing elements. So this particular criteria is going to give me all the load bearing element which are 3D. Now I want to change them. How do I want to change them? The surfaces I want it to be in a red color. So probably I'll just go for paint and you can see there is some red color paint already. So I'll use this vermilion color in 3D. If you wanted to do in 2D, then you customize this aspect. So you have this fill type where you can change the fill how you want it to be. You can customize the color of it. So if I want it to be seen in red, I will just customize both the elements to be in red. You can even do a line marker details. That is also kind of help you with how it is going to appear. Now this is the first set of rule. Second set of rule, all the non-load bearing element. Instead of going through the same process, I can simply duplicate what is there and I'm going to just rename them as non-load bearing and change the rule as all the elements that are not load bearing. So that is a rule that I'm creating. Only change would be this. I can take it a transparent element so that we have glass as the material. And you can also change this as well to a light gray if I want to, in terms of seeing it in plan. So rules are set. Now we are assigning the rule. So I will just click here and set both the rules apply to this element, give OK. Now what you're seeing is this. So in this model, whatever is red is load bearing and also there are 3D elements, structural elements. Whatever you are seeing in transparent are non-3D. You can do a lot of customization in this. If I wanted to specify only the column that are load bearing, what I would do is I will just select that option of column. Now, if I give OK, you can see all the other elements changed and only the columns are in red. So like this, you will be able to do a lot of customization within this model and completely make it the way you want it. So the graphic override is giving you the control of quality assurance. So now in practice, how do we do it? Let us say you have done a model and you have a template file. Within the template file, there are some checks you want to run. First check is when you do the classification, there are load bearing element, non-load bearing element, and unclassified. So you can put a rule where put all the unclassified element in red. You can have a different one where let us say all the elements that are not at ground floor to be in this color, or all the elements that have some specific property to be in this color, so that you will know while you model if you make a mistake. So when you run through the checks, there will be list of check that you can create in the template file. You could go through each of them, identify all the mistakes, and probably using the issue manager, you can find the issues and then share it with them. So graphic override is a strong tool that we have in Archicad when it comes to most of the control towards removing the errors within the model. You can experiment it. It is one of the powerful tools that we have. Not just for this quality check, you can also create custom presentations by changing these properties both in 2D and 3D. So right now we are in 2D plan. Here also you can use the model view option. So if I go to structure and display, now you can see all the columns, all the load bearing columns are now highlighted in red. If I had kept the rule towards all the 3D elements as the load bearing, I could just change to 3D type. So not just the column, beams are also going to be shown in that specific color. So this is how we custom create graphic override to check the issues within the model, or create specific presentation within this model. So it gives a greater control towards element creation. And not just this, sometimes let's say we want to create a drawings that is document specific. You could create 3D documents. So I will just get back to the model that we had. Let us say I want to showcase this column detail for structural aspect. You could use the power of this morph tool, the marquee tool itself by selecting that detail that you want to showcase. If I just put F5, it is going to highlight those elements and show you this detail. So this is the detail I want to showcase in the drawing. I could create a 2D drawing by just taking a section and detail tool. I can also do this in manner where I have the 3D detail. So I could do this, or I can do this and then convert that to a 3D document. So this is something really powerful. So if it is a section detail, I could just name it section detail. And now that becomes part of your new view. So let me just get to this and add it as a new drawing. Now we have here the one that we created. You could do documentation on this. So if you want to have any level of detail, so right now it is without finishes, right? You can just go to entire model, and now it will show you entire model with all the details that is required. So documentation tool, if I use the label tool and go for the skin list as the option, if I click on this, it will give me the list of elements that are there. So there is 1-inch plaster, there is 6-inch reinforced concrete, there is a tile on the roof, and that is also in the order. I don't have to type it anymore. If I want it for this particular element, it will give me whatever setting that has been placed for that. So it's a plaster, gypsum plaster, concrete block, and this. You could customize how you want the annotation to be. You could do a lot of work within this and make it much better. You can also add dimensioning tool and work with this. So you could just click on the points and then create the dimensions within this. So Archicad lets you work completely in terms of creating model, also documentation, that to a great extent. So this is an architect's language. If you look at this element, it is not uh, like unfamiliar to architects. So we create drawings like this to communicate it better with all the people that we have to deal with, such as the people on the site, the clients, and all these people, right? So all the presentation, you could also control on the style of this presentation. So there are so many things that you can completely work on. So even if you want to look at adding a shadow to this object, you could control it here. If you want to see the texture, you could, the surface fills and change how it appears within this, you can control it here. Shadow, all these things are within this. And if you want to even work on the 3D projection settings, you could do that so that it will make it a little more different than how we are seeing like in a perspective view. So 3D documentation is something that is really powerful when it comes to Archicad, and it will give you complete control when it comes to an architect's usage. You could also create 2D details. So for example, what I created there, I can just use this detail. Let's say I wanted to use it for documentation. So under viewport, you have a tool specifically called detail tool, which can be used to create this kind of detail. How many ever you want, you can do that. It will also add to your navigator. And if I just open that, you can see the documentation is here. I could create it as a view or multiple views if I need to. Now this will become part of my detail. And I could add the same thing that we did, the documentation tool, all the dimensions required. I could place them here as well instead of doing it in the main section. Now that becomes part of this. Again, if I want this also to be added into my drawing, we could just go to the layout. Because we have already one master layout, I can simply just do a drag and drop of that to create a sheet. So we had a 3D section that we created. I will just drag and drop into this, which will create a automatic sheet. Now I just have to do change of scale. Probably that would be a custom scale of, I wanted 1:150. Oh, sorry, 1:150. And then I can arrange the view and tell, okay, I need only this much of the 3D view. If I want to add additional reference of the specific detail that I created, I could just do again a drag and drop. That's it. it will become part of the drawing. This also I can customize. So how many ever you want, you can add, make your documentation just by doing in like 2 minutes or 3 minutes of work. That is all what Archicad lets you, I mean, give, that is the amount of detail that you can give within the short period of time using Archicad. So you can see these details, and it also give the drawing name. So there is a section detail and also detail. Two drawings imported, both are already there, and both are in different scale. It will show you here as well. It will show you here as well. So making lesser mistake, there is no almost no mistake, I would say, until and unless it's a human error that you're looking at. Yeah, documentation wise, you have this complete control on this. Even right now, I just identified, okay, this is not the ideal way of ending the stair. I want it to be something else. You have the support connection, which you can look at when we are doing the ends. So under flight, if I just change the support connection to be horizontal, for example, just to showcase. So something like this, if I take, it is going to use that property and build it for you. And then I can just give that dy value of that small amount of offset that is required. That is 1.5 inch. If I add it here, it becomes a better drawings as well. So these are the things that can gives a step up when we do in comparison to most of the BIM software around. The main thing is that this is an architect's tool. You can have complete control on how it visualizes and also how we work on it, how you can customize each and every aspect of ArchiCAD elements. And there is not any difficult way that is there in ArchiCAD. It's all easy to understand, easy to learn type of method within this. So learning curve is very smaller, so you don't have to worry about learning specific term or terminologies. It's very handy because most of the thing is like, if you notice, it gives a graphical symbol for you to work on it. Now that is about the today's presentation. I will just get back to our quiz, where I'll just open the quiz page. Now, those of you are using your devices, phone devices, you can scan this and join our quiz. So it would be great if you give us a thumbs up after you join. Meanwhile, you can start adding your doubts or questions that you have with respect to the topics that we covered so far. So I can also answer them easily. So this is a QR code. So while you finish, I will also just add some of the points. When I was talking about LOD, it's just not one tool that you have like different methods that you can use it to achieve the outcome. I can use the structural display. I can use the layers and layer combination options to switch between different view types and create new drawings. I can also use the graphic override as well to create certain specific drawings. So you have complete control on your design, modeling, documentation, and also the next step that we will be looking at is a collaboration. So this is what Archicad does in terms of this modeling and documentation options. So let me just move to the next part. So you have the QR code here. So you can start giving the votes. Have you tried Archicad yet? Yes, some of you it's showing that you have already used it, which is good. Some of you are thinking about it. That's happy to hear that you are interested in this. Yes, we will move to our questions. Oh, sorry, that is. Just give me a second. Yeah. Is the screen visible now? Yes, please do join it. I think it has moved back.
We can see the QR code screen, Shine.
Okay, okay. So yeah, we will move to the first part of it. If you have tried Archicad, we would like to know. Yes, so that's good to hear that some of you have already tried Archicad and also thinking about it. That's great. The first question that we are focusing on, try to answer it faster so that you will be getting more point towards that. So are both Archicad and Revit BIM software? So that would be the first question. Yes, Archicad and Revit both are BIM software that we have, and those are the major players in the industry when it comes to a BIM tool. Moving to the next question. Can we create MEP drawings in Archicad Solo, specifically Archicad Solo? You can think about it. So this is MEP where you have both plumbing, electrical, and mechanical elements. Yes, it has MEP modeling tools, and the same tools can be used even for documentation as well. Yeah, what what option in Archicad can be used for adjusting level of detail? So we have explored the tools. Like I mentioned, there are many tools. So one of the tool which is already there in this is going to help in terms of creating this. Yes, model view option is the one that we'll be using to create. So good to hear that all of you are understanding the concept of it easily. So yes, I think you have not used your name. So yeah, the fastest person is ET. Congratulations. We will take you to the main page where we have the QR code for the lucky draw. So make sure to scan this QR code. You will enter the lucky draw, and it will be visible for you for some time. I think meanwhile I will take the doubts that is there. So there is a question from Abhishek. Hi Abhishek. I was working on residential project, tried using Archicad, had some doubt. One, can we add plastering to beams? Uh, can we add metal grills to the windows? Okay, so there are two things. Like I was mentioning, when it comes to doing the customization part. So the first is plastering of beams. You can do it. There are different methods where we create. So in the first session, and sorry, in the second session, I spoke about profile manager. So using the profile manager, you can create a beam with plastering. So that is one way of doing it. I'll just show one basic two options that we have. One is if you use a beam here, there is an option here to use a veneer. So one thing is that you can override the surfaces which are here. So if I just activate it, you will be able to add that particular paint. It's more like painting part of it. But the thing that I would consider using as a best option is using the profile manager. So you could go to the profile manager, which is here, and then you create new for that specific beam that you are looking at. So if I'm using beam, I'll use that. And let me just create it under profiles. So here you can see there is already something. So I'm just going to remove, and using the documentation tool, the fill, I could take reinforced concrete as a material. That is the material that we are using. And you can do the shape of the beam. So let me just take probably 1.5 inches, 8 inches. I'm doing like this. So this is going to be the main part of it. Now, if I want it, I could just add the thickness of the plaster. That would be with another element. So I'll just choose a 1 inch plaster, And I'll just make sure that there are 2 layers, and this layer I can add the plastering material. So if you're just putting concrete or whatever material, or let me just put gypsum itself. So plaster gypsum. So you can see there are 2 layers right now. I'll just save it. I'll make sure I assign the objects to beam itself. So now this is going to be the beam, and you can control the location of the beam. So right now it uses this point, which is not ideal. You can use it probably on this corner point, but again, it's up to you where you want the plaster. You just make sure that you add it here in this profile, and you could save it. And next time when I use the beam, for example, I take the beam tool, and in the profile manager, last time we worked with the cornice, here we will be going with the beam, and I can just draw the beam which we did. So if I just put F5 and then focus onto that, you will be able to add that plastering layer to that. You could have a lot of control also as well here by using it with a tapering option, and then you could control the thickness of it. Also in the profile manager, you can change the parametric properties as well. Yeah. So the next part of the question, can we add metal grills to the window? So right now, grill is not, from what I know, that we don't directly add grills there into the model, but what you can do is you could use the morph tool to create the model of the grill, just how we do like in a SketchUp, or even customize the complete window as a new model using our slabs or walls or morph tool. Any tool that you can use, you can customize the whole window with the grill and then save it as a Archicad window. So that is also possible. So there are 2 methods to create this. So any other doubt? So meanwhile, you can scan the QR code.
Yeah, I may require help from Ms. Ria and Mr. Ayan and admin to probably provide their email ID so that the participation certificate can be sent to you.
You can please do scan the QR code and add all your details within that. We will also share our email ID and details. So if you have any query, you can directly contact us.
And Sonali, can you please?
Yes, Satish. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I thank each and everyone for joining this session, and I really hope we have made it really easy for you to showcase you more about this Archicad platform. We have mentioned our email IDs in the chat box. Do write to us, if you have any queries, or if further after using the Archicad platform, the trial versions, if you're facing any challenges, please feel free to contact us for the same. So I think we should conclude this session. Any further queries, please feel free to reach out to us. Do share us the feedback form. It will really help us out and you also to win the freebies. And over to you, Satish.
Yeah, so please do fill the feedback form because you will be lucky enough to get one license of Archicad Solo in the lucky draw. So it might probably help for you to take care of your work in Archicad. And if you have any further questions, we will take it up. Otherwise, we will probably close the session formally. Thank you very much, Shane. I think we don't have any more further queries. So thank you very much for all the members who have joined us in spite of your busy schedule. You have taken your valuable time and spent it with us. We hope that this was very much meaningful to you. And please do join us for the next webinar, which we will be doing on June 12th. So with that, we will be closing a wonderful session with the Archicad software. Thank you very much. Thank you, Shine, and thank you, Sonali, for supporting this.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks, everyone. Wish to see you next time.